Welcome to the Amanda Hall mini workshop series here on Facebook Live of a Wednesday afternoon here on the Gold Coast. I do apologise for anybody that went to watch my previous show on A1R Psychic Radio out of the Washington District in the US of A. They had some technical difficulties over there due to a lightning strike that took out all the communications in the area. So I do apologise. We will make a make-up show for that. But those of you that are joining us here for the very, very first time here on Facebook Live, welcome. And for those of you that join us weekly, a big welcome also. We have an amazing family that join us from all around the world. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Amanda Hall. I'm a psychic and I'm an astrologer. I've been here in Australia working in this industry for over 40 years. I do have a number of awards that have been given to me throughout my career. I was named Psychic of the Year for 4 years in a row this year, voted by the public here in Australia. And I want to say a big thank you to everybody that voted for me. And back in 2013, I was inducted into the Australian Psychic Hall of Fame here in Australia. So let's just get some T's and C's out of the road before we start the show. For those of you that aren't familiar with our format, it is a mini teaching workshop series that I do every Wednesday afternoon here on Facebook. I don't actually do free readings in this section. It's more about education and helping you understand and work with the energy of candles, plus also whatever the energy is that we're focusing on around the universe at this particular time. So it's more about an educational situation. I will not be sort of waving to everybody and yelling out and saying hi to Mary and Bob and Sue that have joined us. If you want to leave a little comment there, I will get back to you within 48 hours. I do promise that. But I really like to focus on the topic at hand and keep the show flowing so that it's something that's seamless, that everybody can sort of sit back and enjoy, take notes. You know, some people will agree with everything I've got to say and other people won't agree with anything I've got to say. So it's entirely your choice at how you see what we discuss here this afternoon. We're up to workshop number 21. So, you know, we're sort of hurtling along in the world of discovery of how we work with energy in the universe. This week I'd like to focus on the sun in Cancer because the sun is just about to finish its reign in Cancer for this time this year. We follow the zodiac around, and the formula that I like to work with on my workshop series is we will cover the sun sign when it's in the sun sign. We will also cover the new moon of the month and the full moon of the month and anything else that may be of an amazing astrological importance, you know, whether we're covering a blue moon or a dark moon. A dark moon happens is just straight out new moon, but whether we're following the blue moon or whether we're following anything else that may be of significant importance. Last week we had the new moon with the solar eclipse, and I spoke about at great length and how to deal with that sort of energy. We do have another 2 eclipses coming up in this season that we will cover in workshops over the next couple of weeks. So to kick today's show off, as I said, we're going to be working with the sun in Cancer energy. For those of you that aren't familiar with how often the sun changes signs, in astrology, we have 12 zodiac signs. The beginning of the astrological year is actually in March. It doesn't start at the beginning of the calendar year, and it commences with the very, very first sign of Aries. Now, Aries is the first sign, so I know a lot of people say to me, oh, I'm on the cusp, Amanda. There is actually no such thing as being on the cusp. A cusp is like a cut or a line. If we imagine we've got a pie and we divide it into 12 equal portions, that's the 12 houses or the 12 signs of the zodiac. So just because you're sitting next to another piece of pie doesn't mean you're actually that piece of pie. So that's exactly how astrology works. The sun goes into an energy or a zodiac sign or an astrology sign as early as the 16th of the month and as late as the 26th. So there's a crossover period where it could be anywhere in that 10-day range. And this is why people loosely started to use the word I'm on the cusp. The cusp is the actual technical name for the line or the cut to the pie, if you want to look at it in that way. So you're not really on a cusp. You're either one sign or the other. Now, a good astrologer should be able to give you that information within about 10 seconds. For those of you that have access to computers, which most of us do these days, there's plenty of free astrology programs out there that if you were to type in your date of birth, it should be able to tell you for that year which particular sign that you are in. So there is no such thing as being on the cusp. So what does it mean if you are born under the sign of Cancer? And how does this affect every other sign for the year? So I'm going to start with, if you're born under the sign of Cancer, you are a cardinal sign, which cardinal, yes, is exactly the same as the 4 points of the compass, the north, south, east, and west. So it means that you're a very forthright and very direct person. It can also mean that you're a little bit selfish and a little bit self-centered at times. Cancer is a water sign. It is the sign of the crab. So they can be seen to be sort of walking sideways to actually go forward. And throughout my extensive career in astrology, I've learned to sort of distinguish that I think there's two types of crabs. As there is in nature, there's a sand crab and there's a mud crab. Now, the mud crab likes to hide a little bit more and the sand crab's a little bit more daring. So which Cancer are you? Are you the sand crab or the mud crab? Or maybe you're a combination of both and you bring out different energies at different times. And that's okay. We don't always have to be completely just one person. We have the ability, I think, to sort of be flexible enough to move between being a sand crab and a mud crab. And no, I'm not a Cancer. Cancer is also a very intuitive sign. It's supposed to be the sign that it governs the mothering energy in a chart. Doesn't necessarily always mean where we find Cancer, we find our mother in the chart. But on a flat wheel, if we didn't know our time of birth, Cancer would be considered the fourth sign, which is the house of the home or the mother. And this is why they sort of loosely apply the word mothering influence to the sign of Cancer. That, you know, it's a nurturing, caring, the place of the home where we feel secure and all those sort of things. Cancerian people are very nice. They can be very gentle. They can be very caring and maternal and motherly. And at the same time, they can be as hard as nails and be so detached from wanting to nurture the world and just really look after themselves. So there's a lot of variations of Cancer. Yes, they can be very intuitive, but they can also be quite secretive. Because what you've got to understand is the Cancerian energy is trying to establish or build in their lives that they feel emotionally secure. So they will go to any length to achieve this. And sometimes it's not exactly the way that other star signs see it. And they feel that they're very sneaky or devious or selfish or self-centered or want to hide from the world. And why can't they be more like me? Why can't they be more extroverted? Why can't they be more open? Why are they so quiet? Why are they so secretive? Well, this is just the way they are. If you think of a crab tends to sort of revert back into its shell to hide when it feels that it's under any sort of threat or danger in nature. Well, the same is said for Cancer, the star sign. If they start to feel as if they're under attack in any way, they will retreat. They do clam up. They don't necessarily share all their innermost thoughts with everybody that's around them. And it's not necessarily are they being deceitful, it's their form of protection. So I think we have to sort of really cut them some slack and understand that we all have our own idiosyncrasies. We all have ways that we handle pressure and stress and attacks in our lives and things that we need to sort out. So please don't be too tough on them. Their opposite sign is Capricorn, so they do have a lot of strength coming in from the opposite sign, and they can be quite good with money when they want to be too. And a lot of Cancerian people are great homemakers or really have a flair for interior design or making a home feel comfortable and secure. They quite often are very good cooks because, again, that relates to that sort of nurturing, caring, wanting to look after somebody sort of energy. But not always are they interested in cooking. Some people have beautiful voices. Some people are entertainers. Some people, you know, just like to be who they are. And I can remember when I first got into astrology, and you really start to notice a lot of things about star signs when you're first getting into it. And every Cancer that I met in the first couple of years in my journey into astrology, I found the fact that every time that they went on holidays, they had to take little trinkets and things with them to make them feel secure. And it was like they'd go into a motel or an apartment that they were only temporarily staying in, and out would come the knickknacks to make it feel like home. And I started to think, is that a real trait of Cancerians? And I actually found it was, that they don't leave home without one or two special items that they can put out there that makes them feel secure and makes them feel that they are at home. So they have the ability to make home wherever they are at that point in time. I don't think there's any other star sign that goes to that extreme. You know, we might all take the necessities when we travel, but we don't necessarily take our favourite pillow or our favourite knickknacks to make us feel secure to put in our hotel room, as Cancerians do. So how does the sign of Cancer affect the rest of us around the planet? And it's interesting, I had the great opportunity last week of working on a show out of New York, a radio show called I've Got Your Number. And I worked with two amazing women, Lois and Joanna. And Lois is a numerologist, and she was talking about the 7th month of the year, which is what Cancer predominantly is in. And she talked about from a numerology angle that it's the time of the year where we should all slow down and start to nurture ourselves and give ourselves a little bit of a rest. And I thought, isn't that really interesting? Because I know I've always personally found if I'm going to get sick, which I don't often do, it is usually in the month of July. And it's sort of, I always took it because it was winter here in Australia, and I'm not a particularly fan of winter. I just thought it was just, I wanted to sort of stay home indoors, out of the cold with the heater going and a DVD in hand and a hot coffee in the other hand and just sort of chill out. But now I understand it's part of a cycle that we all need to adopt and apply, no matter what part of the world we live in. The 7th month is about taking a little bit of a breather. That, you know, we've worked really hard in the first 6 months of the year. The 7th month we can chill a little bit and get ready for the race to the finish line of the end of the year for the next 5 months. So it's sort of like that little bit of time where we can grant ourselves a little bit of slack and just sort of wind down a little bit. But it's also a time, I think, of great intuition. And I feel that intuition can only be sort of switched on or enhanced if we do slow down a little bit, so that we have the time to really focus on the messages that are being shared with us. And people say to me, Amanda, how do I know that I'm really getting a message? Look, messages can come in many different forms. Some people find that it's just ideas running in and out of their mind. Other people say to me, oh, I saw it on a street sign, and when I looked back, the street sign said Smith Street, didn't say what I first saw. And look, it can come in many different forms. I find for me, it quite often comes in the form of a song. Or I could be watching something quite mindless on the television or have something going in the background, and all of a sudden I'll be drawn to stop and watch and focus on, you know, a sentence or two that comes out of the movie or the series that I might be watching. And that'll be my aha moment. That'll be that message that is my psychic flash, I like to call it. So we get messages in lots and lots of different ways. So don't sort of rule them out because you don't quite understand it, or you think it sounds stupid, or, yeah, but I was only having coffee with a girlfriend and she came up with this brilliant idea and I adopted it. You wouldn't have really paid attention to it in such a dynamic way if you weren't meant to. It would have just gone on with the flow of the conversation. So as I always say, intuition comes in many different forms. And if we're constantly running it at full speed ahead, how would we know when we're being given messages or something is being shared with us? Because we're going to be too busy to be able to even acknowledge that it happened. So that may be another reason why the 7th month of the year is a time when we should be sort of slowing down and allowing this intense emotional energy and this intuition to really sort of kick in. Because if we have a few lazy days or some quieter times, the messages can actually sort of flow. Some people also say to me around the month of July, and even though it's not Easter time and it's not a time of the year where we should necessarily be looking for something sweet, but I know a lot of people message me and say, what is it about July, Amanda? Is it just because we're in the Southern Hemisphere that I all of a sudden want to sit on the couch and eat chocolate biscuits or eat chocolate? No, I don't think it's got so much to do with the weather. I think it's also got to do with the Cancerian energy, because again, over the years, I have noticed that many Cancerians look at chocolate as being one of the 5 food groups. They don't seem to be able to function in their day without a piece or two of chocolate. I'm not saying the whole bar should be suggested, but what I'm saying, for them, 1 or 2 little squares of chocolate, probably preferably dark chocolate because it's better for your body, is something that makes them feel complete. It's sort of like it's an essential ingredient to them, like us putting one of the 5 food groups into our mouths to bring our lives into balance and to say we have a balanced diet. So it's not necessarily a license to say go hard on junk food, but what I'm saying is, if your body's craving a little bit of something like that, a little bit is not dangerous. It's when we binge on it or we have too much of it that then it becomes a health issue. So I think if you're sort of, looking to sort of grab a chocolate bar, then maybe just buy a block of chocolate and portion it out and say, okay, my rations or my treat for the day is 2 squares, maybe up to 4. But past that point, I think then what we're doing is we're losing that We're just eating it for the sake because it's there. We're not actually satisfying that craving or that desire that we had. So be aware of that as well. The Cancerian time of the year is also when we quite often have some very wild dreams, or we find that we dream more than we do at other times of the year. And I know there's many people out there say, Amanda, I'm sure I don't dream. I don't remember them. Well, lucky for you that you go into such a deep sleep that you don't remember. We all dream. It's just some of us remember our dreams more than others. I'm not a big person for remembering dreams. Usually the only time that I get very significant dreams is usually when it's sort of like a dream that is very predictive, that's warning me or showing me something that's coming up in my life. Or the only other time I really get dreams is when I'm sick. And I find then I get peculiar, weird, wacky, no nonsense, no sense dreams that, don't make any sense. Like I'm sitting down to campfire with somebody famous and having a glass of scotch or something ridiculous like that. And, which would never happen. But it's sort of, I think, a way of your unconscious mind just releasing a lot of stuff. And I think when we're sick, our whole energy levels are changed. So that's probably why we have different types of dreams at that time of the year. So please take notice if you're finding that you're dreaming more at this time of the year. Make sure that you write them down and sort of try and analyze them, see if there's any pattern to it. And if you're feeling tired at this time of the year, honor that. Give your body a little bit of a rest. There's nothing wrong with having a half-hour rest on the bed or asleep in the chair or go and sit in the sun and doze or whatever the case may be, because your body is needing that extra little bit of R&R so that, we've got busy times ahead of us that we can start to make use of the energy that we will be needing in the coming months ahead as we race towards the finish line. So for those of you that may want to have a private reading with me, you can always head to my website, www.amandahallpsychic.com.au. And when you get to the checkout, if you type in capital letters the word Facebook, you will find you'll get a little discount there. For those of you that might want to join our newsletter, also you can head to my website and sign up there. I do offer you a complimentary free astrology chart valued at $30 for joining our newsletter. You're under no obligation to stay with us. If you find that the newsletter is not what, ticks your boat, floats your boat, you're quite happy to unsubscribe at any time, and you're also welcome back at any time. So on next week's mini workshop, we're going to be covering the full moon in Aquarius, and we'll be close to another eclipse, so we'll be talking about that as well. For those of you that, have enjoyed what you've seen here today and you want to sort of catch up on some of my previous workshops, you will find in the blurb there's a link there to a Facebook page that's been set up for all my shows so that you can go back and watch them whenever you feel the need. And if you have any subjects that you would like me to cover in workshops, please feel free to private message me. I know a number of you have done that, and I'm slowly working down my way through the list and will incorporate them into the workshops over the next few weeks. So we need to get and talk about how we would work with a candle as far as the sun in Cancer. So the sun in Cancer, for that I have chosen my water sign candle. This is a candle that relates to the 3 water signs, which is Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces. So you would write your list of the things that you might want to bring towards you in your life at the moment. So is there some new opportunities, some new things that you're hoping to bring into your life? It may just be that you want to be more aware of your dreams. Maybe you want to increase your intuition. Whatever it might be, or you might want to make some changes to your home, you might want to repair some friendships, whatever the case may be, anything that you can think of that relates to the Cancerian energy can be written on your list. Now, I like to work with a list in as much as putting at least 3 things on my list. Sometimes I like to work with something that I feel that can be something that we can draw towards us in the next couple of weeks, something about 6 months and something a bit further down the track, but it's entirely up to you. So how I work with it is I write my list. Before I light the candle, I actually read the list out aloud. Then I will place the list underneath the candle, but I also place the candle on a coaster. I never put it directly on furniture or a cupboard because the glass containers do get hot. The soy wax inside the candle doesn't get hot, but the glass container can get hot. And we don't want to scorch the furniture. And also, too, I think it also helps prevent the cracking of the glass. Sometimes the glass containers will crack if they get too hot. And particularly with sudden drops in temperature, if we get a thunderstorm or the temperature drops 6 or 8 degrees, which it's done quite frequently here in Queensland recently, it'll be nice and pleasant, then all of a sudden your teeth are chattering. This can sometimes cause them to break. So with these extra large candles, you'll notice that they have 2 wicks in them. I tend to light one side one day and then the other side the next day. Yes, I suppose it makes it actually more economical to burn that way. But I found that way that you've got less chance of the glass container cracking with the drop in temperature. And where if you were to light both sides of the wicks, you would probably get up to about a 60-hour burn. Where if you do it with alternate wicks, you will get up to a 100-hour burn. So it does make it a far more economical candle to burn in that way, and also less chance of the glass cracking. I like to sort of light my candle between about 5 minutes to 2 hours per day. That way I believe that you're really working with the intent, purpose and direction that you're trying to bring into your life. And that's really sort of important, because if we're going to be working with trying to increase our intuition, we don't want to just give it 5 minutes. And can I stress that you really need to be with your candle at all times. We don't want to set the house on fire. Please never place your candle underneath an open window, curtains, pets, children, under fans, air conditioners, things like that, or where you think it could get knocked over, because fires can start very, very quickly. And the last thing we'd want is a fire to start because of the candle. Look, I know lots of people say to me, look, I've got it in sand and I've got it in this and I've got it in that. I still believe that you should not leave a candle unattended. That's my personal opinion. And I certainly don't leave mine unattended. For those of you that think an extra large candle is too big and you don't have the space for that, we do actually have a gift pack where we make, you can choose any one of our 28 candles in our range. This one I've made up this week is 3 water sign candles. So this is a candle that 3 water sign candles that you are actually able to burn at any time you like. They only have 1 wick in them. They will burn for about 15 hours each. Same rules apply. Always write your list, read it out aloud before you light the candle, pop it on a coaster. These are ideal for traveling or if you want to take them to work, things like that. My other suggested course of action is a melt warmer. Now, a lot of you may have seen these or may have had, oil burners in the past where you put the little tea light candle underneath. Well, now I'm pleased to say they have an electric version of this where we can actually put the wax out of the candle into the melt warmer with no water. These are electric, have a little button that you turn it on and off, and you actually follow the same sort of principles, putting your melt warmer with a coaster with your read your list out aloud. The advantage of this is that you only use half a teaspoon of wax per day. And you can leave this going all day. You can have this going in the office or around the home, and it's a much safer alternative to having a flame. I have these going in my office, and I also have them out of my dining room where I do a lot of my work. But in my office, I have one constantly set up with my protection wax in there that every time I'm doing psychic work, I add another half a teaspoon for the day, turn it on, and I know that I'm fully protected for all my work that I'm doing. And my main one out in my dining room is where I change my wax depending on what I'm actually focusing on. My one in my dining room at the moment has the Cancer or the water sign wax in it because I'm looking to increase my intuition and really enhance my Cancerian energy while the sun is in Cancer. So they're just my suggestions there for those. So on next week, as I said before, we will be working with the full moon in Aquarius. So that should be a great workshop. I really want to thank you for joining me here week after week. I really do enjoy sharing some of my knowledge with you that I've amassed over the years. Have a great week, and I'll look forward to working with you next week. Bye for now.